Well, apart from the bloody maths, there's no denying it. Round stones are definitely the easiest option for making a bezel. So let's make your life just that little bit more complicated and make a bezel for our gorgeous Labradorite rose cut. Okay, so let's take a look at this bad boy. No corners as such, but lots of random curves. No problemo, we got it. So for this bezel, we're going to be using ready-made bezel wire in 22 gauge. You can get this in various heights, but the height you need really does depend on the stone that you're working with. The first thing that we're going to do is make sure we're starting with a perfectly flat and perpendicular edge to our bezel wire. Now, to make life a little easier, if it's possible, we want to make sure that our solder joint is not on a corner. So I'm going to line the edge up of my bezel to the middle of a gentle curve and just start bending the wire. But as you can see, this is a little tough to do by hand. So we're going to grab a pair of half round and flat and round and flat pliers just to help us out here. I'm going to use the pliers with the inside jaw that's the closest match to the curve that I want for my bezel. So for larger curves, I'll use my half round and flat pliers to bend the wire. And for tight curves, I'm going to use the round and flat pliers. Now, there's no quick way to do this. Just hold the wire in the pliers, making sure to keep it perpendicular to the jaws, and simply bend the wire where you want to bend. And then check that you bent it in the right place. And if you didn't bend it in the right place, just correct it. You can do it. It's really simple. But you will likely have to try a few times. And this does need a lot of focus and attention. We're not randomly bending the wire here, we're mindfully bending the wire. I hate that bloody word. But we look at our stone, and then we look at our wire, and we just copy the bend of the stone with our wire. Now, sometimes we'll put a bend where we don't want one, but that's no drama either. Just grab a pair of flat pliers and squeeze down onto that curve just to make it flat again. Now, you are going to faff around a bit to start with, but just be patient and you will get there. You can see for yourself, I'm faffing like a bloody moron here. Just stay patient and it will work. Okay, look at that, the perfect fit. So let's just take that fine Sharpie and make a line where the bezel overlaps before cutting just to the waist side of that line. Then bring the edges together and check the fit. And yay, it's too big, which is perfect, because now I can open it back up a little and use my flat hand file to true up the edges and create a perfect solder joint. Now you can also cut through the joint here as you would with a ring band, and if I was using 20 gauge, I definitely do that. But it is just a little iffy with 22 gauge, and I don't fancy losing a finger. Perfect. And that means perfect, but it only makes sense if you're a fan of old British comedy. So now let's get it soldered. And yep, you guessed it, hard solder. Now I don't care how big my solder pallion is here, to be honest. It's going to be cleaned up later anyway as part of the whole bezel cleanup process. So if you do want to use a lot of solder, be my guest. So surprisingly enough,